With Casey and Brett gone, Chicago Fire has yet to strike gold with its next slow-burn couple, and the show's struggles will only worsen in Season 14. The NBC procedural drama series has produced many great TV romances. From Severide and Kid to Casey and Brett, Chicago Fire has had its fair share of engrossing, beloved love stories. In Season 12 of Chicago Fire, Casey and Brett were married and drove off into the sunset, also known as Oregon, together. As a result, the program had to locate a new couple. There seems to have always been a slow-burning will they/won't they dynamic at Chicago Fire. Thus, it had to generate one fast. By Season 14, both of the alternatives that the show has explored will no longer exist. Chicago Fire is losing two new couples in Season 14. Jake Lockett and Michael Bradway are leaving Chicago Fire. Jake Lockett, who plays Sam Carver, and Michael Bradway, Jack Damon, are set to exit Chicago Fire ahead of Season 14. Lockett's, along with Daniel Kyrie's, Darren Ritter, departure was announced before the Season 13 finale. NBC reportedly needed to make some budget cuts, and Lockett and Kinney were the ones who paid the price. Bradway's exit from Chicago Fire wasn't announced until July 2025, when he was cast to play Charlie Florek in Every Year After, Prime Video's TV adaptation of Carly Fortune's book Every Summer After. Production began right away, meaning Bradway was unavailable to film Chicago Fire. As such, NBC's show is down two possible/new couples, Carver and Violet, and Damon and Novak. Chicago Fire Season 13 ended with Carver and Violet kissing and confessing their love, but Lockett's exit seemingly negates the possibility of a future for them. Carver and Violet's relationship started as a friends with benefits situation until he decided he wanted more. Violet wasn't ready, though, leading to their breakup. Then, Carver and Violet spent all of Season 13 pining for one another. Chicago Fire Season 13 ended with Carver and Violet kissing and confessing their love, but Lockett's exit seemingly negates the possibility of a future for them. Meanwhile, Damon and Novak's relationship was also casual at first, and, unfortunately, it will likely always stay that way due to Bradway's departure. The Chicago Fire Season 13 finale didn't touch upon their romance, meaning the series will never get to thoroughly explore what Damon and Novak's story could be, unless Bradway returns. Why Firehouse 51 needs a slow-burn relationship. Fans need a couple to root for. Even though romance isn't the main focus of Chicago Fire, it's still pretty important within the One Chicago universe. In fact, it plays a significant role in most TV shows in general. People love having a couple to root for or against, and by having one, two, or a few, it's easier to draw them in to watch said TV series. In the earlier seasons of Chicago Fire, it was all about Casey and Gabby Dawson. She was in love with him while he was engaged. Their story was intriguing from the start, and although their relationship ended in heartbreak in Chicago Fire, Casey and Dawson set the standard for all the couples who followed them. Without Casey and Brett, who were Firehouse 51's hit romance for many seasons, Chicago Fire feels stale. It needs a new will they/won't they duo to freshen up the show. Chicago Fire was evidently setting up Carver and Violet and/or Damon and Novak to be Casey and Brett's replacements. But that dream will be all but lost when Season 14 premieres. Chicago Fire Season 14's new cast member could solve the show's romance dilemma. Brandon Larraquent is joining the cast. The good news is that a new actor is joining the Chicago Fire cast as a series regular in Season 14. Despite Lockett, Kinney, and Bradway's exits, Brandon Larraquent will appear in a key role in the upcoming episodes. Not much is known about his character, but he could be coming to Chicago Fire to help fill its Brett and Casey-shaped hole. But if Larraquent is coming to serve as one half of Chicago Fire's next epic romance, one has to wonder why the series is letting go of Lockett. Larraquent is likely portraying a firefighter who Firehouse 51 brings in to replace Carver, Ritter, or Damon. They will be down 3 men, so they'll need all the help they can get. However, when Larraquent's Chicago Fire Season 14 character arrives, perhaps he'll hit it off with somebody at the fire station, probably Violet or Novak, since they're the only single ones. But if Larraquent is coming to serve as one half of Chicago Fire's next epic romance, one has to wonder why the series is letting go of Lockett. Bradway's departure is understandable, given his scheduling conflicts. However, Violet and Carver's story in Chicago Fire was intriguing and only getting started. They could have easily been the next Casey and Brett. Whatever the case, Season 14 needs a new romance fast. It also has to feel right, though, and appeal to the audience. Maybe Lara Quent's character can bring exactly what the show needs, but only time will tell what Chicago Fire has in store in the love department for Season 14. Enjoy Screen Rant's primetime coverage? Click below to sign up for our weekly Network TV newsletter. Make sure to check Network TV in your preferences and get the inside scoop from actors and showrunners on your favorite series. It's the elephant in the firehouse no one wants to talk about, but fans feel it every episode. Chicago Fire still hasn't figured out how to fill the gaping hole left behind by Matthew Casey and Sylvie Brett, and Season 14 might only deepen the problem. When two long-running fan favorites exit a show, it's natural for a transition period to follow. But in the case of Chicago Fire, that transition feels more like a lingering identity crisis. The show once thrived on the stability, chemistry, and emotional core provided by Casey and Brett. Their quiet leadership and slow-burn romance were anchors amid the chaos. Now, with both characters officially off the canvas after Brett's emotional departure and Casey's decision to return to Oregon, what's left is a noticeable void the series has yet to properly address. And with a growing list of exits and new faces slated for Season 14, the issue is only becoming more glaring. The core of the problem is that Casey and Brett weren't just characters. They were pillars. Jesse Spencer's Casey brought calm, maturity, and legacy to Firehouse 51. A kind of steady center that helped balance the more impulsive or volatile personalities. Meanwhile, Kara Kilmer's Brett offered emotional intelligence, heartfelt vulnerability, and a unique ability to connect with patients, colleagues, and viewers alike. Their bond, romantic or otherwise, gave Chicago Fire heart. The show built seasons of narrative and character growth around their arcs, culminating in a bittersweet but honest love story that saw Brett leave everything behind to marry Casey and start a new chapter in Oregon. While satisfying for the characters, it left a creative mess for the writers. Without Casey's grounding leadership or Brett's emotional nuance, the show feels adrift, and their replacements, to put it bluntly, haven't landed. The most obvious attempt to fill Casey's shoes came with the introduction of Jake Gibson and the promotion of Sam Carver into a more prominent role. While both characters bring their own energy, neither quite captures the emotional weight Casey did. Gibson is too new to carry the gravitas of a central leading man, and Carver, while intriguing, is far more of a wild card. He adds drama, sure, but lacks the calm, authoritative aura that Casey carried so effortlessly. There's also the unshakable sense that both are written around the ghost of Casey, instead of being allowed to define the space for themselves. Every time a new character tries to step into a leadership role, viewers can't help but ask, what would Casey have done? That shadow is enormous, and it's suffocating character growth. Then there's the Brett problem. Violet Mikami has understandably been positioned as the new emotional center of the paramedicine team, but she's not meant to be Brett 2.0, and that's exactly the trap the show is falling into. Violet shines when she's her own person, snarky, brilliant, sharp, but in trying to echo Brett's compassion and heart-led decision-making, the writers are stretching her into places that feel forced. Worse still, the constant turnover in paramedic partners has prevented any new dynamic from taking hold. From Emma to Hawkins to the incoming fresh faces, none have stayed long enough to create a rhythm, let alone an emotional investment. Without a strong duo in the OMBO, Chicago Fire has lost one of its most powerful storytelling tools. The quiet, personal, life-or-death conversations that used to unfold between Brett and her partners on the way to a call. And the writing doesn't help. Season 13 was plagued with rushed arcs, unresolved emotional beats, and a parade of new characters who came and went without making much impact. Instead of leaning into the absence of Casey and Brett with intention, perhaps exploring how 51 copes with losing two of its most central figures, the show has opted to sidestep it entirely, filling airtime with one-off emergencies and loosely connected subplots. The emotional through line that once grounded Chicago Fire has thinned to almost nothing. Sure, the action is still top-notch, the camaraderie is still intact, and the show hasn't lost its pulse entirely. But without characters the audience can emotionally root for, those rescue scenes and firehouse rivalries feel like sparks without fire. Season 14, unfortunately, looks poised to make things worse before they get better. Already, the show is bracing for more change. Cast exits, possible character deaths, and more promotional reshuffling mean even more instability. There's chatter that Firehouse 51 might get another transfer from another house or even a crossover with Chicago PD. But that feels like putting duct tape on a cracked foundation. What Chicago Fire really needs is emotional investment, and that only comes from time, chemistry, and careful storytelling. New characters need more than screen time. They need soul. Viewers need reasons to care about them, to follow their journeys, to believe in their relationships. So far, that groundwork hasn't been laid. The irony is that Chicago Fire knows how to build great character arcs. It did so beautifully for years with Casey, Brett, Severide, Bowden, and Herman. But the current approach feels rushed, as if NBC is demanding fresh faces to keep the franchise young, without honoring the emotional history that made fans fall in love in the first place. If Season 14 continues down this path, more exits, more shallow introductions, more ignoring the legacy of Casey and Brett, the show risks alienating its core audience. What made Chicago Fire work wasn't just action or romance. It was emotional continuity. We followed Casey and Brett through life's highs and lows. We cried with them, rooted for them, and ultimately, said goodbye with the hope that the show would find a new pair to believe in. That hope, unfortunately, still feels unmet. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe my Fast Gossip 24 to our channel and stay with us.